Hi, friends. I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about stranger things for strange times. We're certainly in strange times, aren't we? And during these strange times, I've been introduced to Stranger Things, which is on Netflix. How it happened is my sister and my mom have come to live with me. My mom's in her 90s, and my sister has one of my sisters, Lisa, has had some problems with her health. So both of them are living with me at the rectory right now, and we're kind of all looking after one another. And it's great to have them around and just to spend some time. But my sister is a sci-fi buff like I am, and so she introduced me to Stranger Things. I'd heard about it over the last couple of years, but never gotten around to watching it. So we started watching it and went through the 3 seasons over this last 6 weeks or so. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I started picking up on things in it that are very Christian in nature, albeit imperfect, right? But manifestations of our Christian beliefs, and certainly of the whole vision of salvation. So what do I mean by that? I guess the best way to say it is this: we live in a secular society. We all know that. We live in a postmodern society, a post-Christian society, really. And we've heard that before. Well, you got to remember that for centuries, our Western culture was cradled in the arms of not only Christianity specifically, generally, but Catholicism specifically. That's how Europe grew up. And that's the foundations of our society here in America. All of our forefathers and mothers were Christians, and they brought their values with them as pilgrims when they came over to establish our lands. So we know that, right? The foundations of our culture is Christian. But we also know that a lot of that has gone away over the last couple of generations, but not entirely. It's hard when you're living in the house to forget that the house is built upon a foundation. And that house of the Christian faith still has a foundation that is there, and it presents itself in Stranger Things. So yes, Stranger Things uses vulgar language. There's some, parts of it that are not according to our faith in regards to the relationships that people have with one another, and other things that are not necessarily Christian, right? But in the midst of that, look what you do have there that's peeking through. And you have Elle, who's the main character. Just by the way, if you've never seen Stranger Things, it's about a group of teenagers in, I think, Indiana, and Hawking or Hawk or something like that, Indiana. And they're all kind of, they themselves are strange, and they're not part of the mainstream, and they're picked on and made fun of as kids, and so are some of the families that they come from. But they end up all becoming heroes in their own way. But think of the main character, 11, who is immediately given the nickname Elle. Well, remember, Elle in Hebrew means God, like El Shaddai, right? And this Elle, we know who her mother is, but we don't know who her father is, meaning she has a mysterious father, but she has a human mother, right? And she very much also is a Christ figure, in that she is called upon very early to be a savior figure for her friends and really for the whole world. She is a stranger to the town. She's picked on and made fun of, and just kind of in a very real way, like Christ, a stranger to our world. But she has supernatural powers, And she uses those supernatural powers essentially for saving her friends and her town and saving the world. The other thing that is interesting about Stranger Things is there are two worlds. There's the world that we live in, which obviously is fallen. There's a lot of flawed characters in Stranger Things, but also has a lot of good and has a virtue and has things like the virtue of friendship and being heroic and self-sacrificing. So again, the things that we value as Christians is bleeding through here. But then there is another world and another dimension called the upside down. Let's just say the upside down world. So this upside down is hell, basically. And there's some pretty bad monsters that come from the upside down. And the upside down, the creatures that are in the upside down, they are trying to get into our world. And they're trying to get into our world in order to overtake our world. And specifically, as you go through the seasons, one of the ways that they do that is they come to possess the bodies of some of these characters, some of these human beings. And they control their mind. And their ultimate goal is to make the upside down world, the upside down, our world. And isn't that exactly what hell is trying to do? And Satan and his monsters is trying to control our minds and our hearts and our lives, and trying to make our good earth that God created into a place that is hellish for a lot of us. But then you have this Christ figure, Elle, who, with her friends, we can call them in a very real way because she's the leader, her band, her fellowship, or her disciples, who all in their own way work together to try to vanquish this evil. You know, it's interesting, she ultimately even gives her life in the first series, but then she resurrects, she comes back in the second season. And the connections, they're not endless, and they're not perfect. And like I said, the writers and the producers, the Duffer brothers, I don't think that they maybe had Christianity in mind, but they couldn't run away from it as people of this culture. And I just want to point all that kind of stuff out for us to consider, because it's something we need to pay attention to. I mean, we're often can be critical of our culture because it's lost its bearings, and a lot of us as people living in this culture are tempted away from our foundations, and many of us are not learning our faith and living our faith. But here in a Netflix series comes a popular series, 3 seasons, that a lot of people are watching, that is representing parts of the Christian faith. And again, I point that out because we can't get away from that. And we can't get away from it because this is our human story that is being told over and over again in things like Narnia and Lord of the Rings, and now something like this series called Stranger Things. And we can't get away from it because it is the story of God and humanity, and the story of love and self-sacrifice, and the story of salvation and of friendship, ultimately friendship with God. And how that friendship with God is the stuff that saves us. And it's good to be reminded of this, even in a secular presentation of the story of our salvation. And I tell it too because we're about ready to, we're right around the time where we're celebrating Mother's Day, right? And one of the other main characters in Stranger Things, her name is Joyce, she's the mother of a couple of the boys who are part of this fellowship, or this group of teenagers who become heroes. Well, she is a hero figure. She is willing to do anything and everything in order to save her sons and her sons' friends. Even to, giving up her own life. that's beautiful as we consider our mothers during this Mother's Day. Because what do we want our mothers to do? Or if you're a mother, what is it that is at the core of who you are? It's that you will do anything for your sons and daughters. And we want that of our mothers. We want our mothers to be heroes, but we also recognize that they're flawed just like we are, that they're fallible, that they're not infallible, that they have faults, that they have failings, that they're sinners just like we are. And I love the character of Joyce because she never gives up. Even though she is flawed and people accuse her of, kind of being loopy and having some mental problems and seeing things and trying to convince her that she shouldn't pursue what it is that she's pursuing, and that's saving her son. But she never gives up on that. And that's something that should be a prayer for all of us. For if you're a mother, that you never give up on your children, and to be willing to go to hell and back in order to save them. And for us who are sons and daughters of mothers, that we want that for our mothers. So we never stop praying for our mothers and cheerleading our mothers and thanking our mothers and being grateful for our mothers for the many ways in which they are heroes for us. Some in big heroic ways, but a lot of times heroic in the daily. Sacrificing their lives so that we might have life. And I say that too as a Christian, as a priest, looking at a secular show like Stranger Things and seeing so much of our Christian faith come out there. It's the same with our mothers, Wherever you are in your faith, mothers, and wherever we are as sons and daughters in our faith, those two can come together in our lives. And the way that we can pray for them and the way that our mothers can be heroes is to attach ourselves to the one who is the hero, the one who is the creator of our mothers and of our lives, and the ones who came into our world to join us to fight against evil. I guess what I'm getting at is that the greatest heroic thing that our mothers and our fathers and our brothers and sisters and you and I as sons and daughters can do is to save one another from evil. And I think that that's what Stranger Things does so well and reminds us to do well with our lives. Until next time.